So this is Bo Mao, visiting professor from the University of Texas, Arlington, at least as of 2019. In the following year, it was found he was attempting to take a circuit board that he acquired from a Californian company for academic purposes, and he turned it over to a Chinese company. He was found guilty for lying about his efforts to acquire this board and turn over the information, and it was alleged that that information was going to Chinese telecom firm Huawei. At this time, this highlighted a growing trend that the United States had identified. Other countries, through foreign-born researchers stationed in our United States, are taking advantage of America's openness and using research facilities to steal secrets to develop their own countries. Following this, our government implemented several changes to address research security, which appear in the CHIPS NDAA Acts, as well as a presidential memo called NSPM 33. These actions are meant to challenge foreign talent programs and other efforts that exploit our scientific enterprise. On February 15th, the Congress examined these efforts in a hearing held by the House Science, Space, and Technology Committee. In this hearing, House Representatives questioned Arati Prabhakar from the White House's Office of Science and Tech Policy, Gary Richmond from the DOE, Michael Lauer from NIH, and Rebecca Kaiser from the NSF. Together, these people are supposed to take the lead to make sure that our national security standards are implemented, and they've been hard at work. For instance, the DOE has created a risk matrix that it uses to identify technologies of risk, and they have collaborated to make common forms for reporting. However, these agencies have focused on the wrong things. For one, they're late on requirements which will produce hard programs and standards to measure if universities are actually securely researching. For instance, Prabhakar's office is late on specifications that direct how universities are supposed to create research security programs. This is a huge problem. Until it is issued, our universities are either going to avoid or slapdash their own self-serving implementation. Worse yet, the draft issued seems to give universities a lot of latitude. As anyone who went to our public schools knows, not only do existing training programs rarely have tests to make sure that people actually understand the material, but often, with regards to stuff like foreign-born TAs having to meet English requirements, universities turn a blind eye despite clear indications that someone doesn't meet their training standards. Right now, Prabhakar indicates that the program will emphasize an effort to maintain open inclusion of foreign-born researchers, which we rely on, allegedly, while we will utilize and try and instill in them a culture that will foster our security aims. She says that this is needed because it will make sure that we stay ahead of information like she does here when she talks about how we need to stay ahead in AI.
Something we've talked about a lot in this administration is the fact that this AI is a technology today that every country around the world is racing to use to build a future that expresses their own values. And coming back to the issues that we've been discussing with the PRC, I think we're all clear that we don't want to live in a future that's defined by technologies that have been shaped by authoritarian regimes. And so yet another reason that as we use this powerful technology that comes up out of a global base, that we make sure that we are racing ahead of everyone else to put it to work for all the things that we need to have happen.
But some people in the room, they question this. For instance, this is what Representative Overnolte thought.
As co-chair of the Fusion Energy Caucus, I couldn't help but think about multinational projects like ITER and the way that, that's 35 different countries coordinating. How do you ensure research security when the DOE is just a small part of the international collaboration on that?
Here, we see that there's indications that changing our internal culture can lead to gaps and misunderstandings when working with outside nations, thus making it insufficient for us to merely be the only ones concerned with this. Further, other representatives show that perhaps a focus on inclusion is the wrong move when lives are at stake. Let's take a look at what we hear here.
Secretary Richmond, earlier you commented about a Chinese researcher who was in fear of losing their grant funding. May I ask, have you ever been on a submarine, one of our nuclear submarines?
No, I haven't had the opportunity yet.
Well, some of the secrets that are being stolen out of American research actually makes it easier for the Chinese Communist Party and the PLN, the People's Liberation Navy, to find our submarines. It's just trying to weigh the difference between the sensitivity of the Chinese researcher who may lose his grant and the 110 or 160 sailors that are on our nuclear submarines off the coast of China today. I just wonder how you balance that.
The point is that research security is very important to all of our agencies. You will be, when you are putting in a proposal, you will be asked questions, and you need to be very honest and transparent with your university, as well as answering those questions about your current and pending support, because that's what we will be looking at, because we don't know whether to trust you or not.
Together, these questions, they make it clear. While we want to make sure that we are ahead of the game and we're driving technological innovation, we need to make sure that we do not have to do it through an over-reliance on foreign students who we admit, through the DOE, as we see here, we ultimately cannot trust. We also heard earlier that we want our values to be injected into the technologies we develop. This is what Prabhakar says earlier. Remember, we cannot let technology be developed over there, otherwise their values will be put in it. But if we merely bring people over and give them unenforced training, while there is still pressure from their folks back home to enhance where they're originally from, then somehow we expect that a culture they were living in for 18 plus years will just disappear in the span of a 30-minute training video. No. The answer to this, the answer to our issue with research security, is something that Representative Lee indicates here.
While we must always be wary of threats our adversaries pose towards our nation, my belief is that we are best served building resilience at home through supporting and developing the talent we have here at home.
And we see that these representatives from our nation's highest and most prestigious scientific agencies, they seem to agree with what Lee says, despite what they said about openness and inclusion earlier.
I do want to make one point, and it ties back to, on this particular issue, it ties back to the issue of the number of graduate students, for example, that we have from other countries. Right now, our graduate stipends are so low in these emerging areas of technology that it's hard for graduate students to make a living. And so that is actually a huge factor in our inability to recruit and retain this. It's really important that Congress step up and recognize that this is the kind of funding that we need to really get the young people into the system that are from all kinds of backgrounds, because those are the ones that are left behind. And if we get those numbers up, we don't have so much need for those from countries of concern.
So it makes it clear here that if we want to maintain our ability to innovate while also secure our own science, then the solution is not to tiptoe around the feelings of foreign-born students and academics and other people like that. It's to get more American researchers, more American teaching assistants, more American professors, more American builders into our pipelines. And this is not to say that all foreign-born students are bad, but if we know that foreign students from a particular country are an issue, then this is a great way to solve it. We can reduce our reliance on them and perhaps maybe curtail the amount of people getting HB1 visas from them, while also bolstering and delivering value for people because they'll be able to get high-paying jobs. Remember, a lot of the options and jobs that these guys have provided, they are pretty lucrative. A lot of them involve software, all that stuff, and if we're ultimately the ones that are paying for these training programs and all of this research with our tax dollars, then these positions should primarily probably go to Americans first. And this will be tough because there's gaps in our pipeline. We know that math is a problem in our educational system. But given that research security is also a national security issue now, it will be worth it.